if you look at Jefferson, a guy who's been mostly a quarterback, and see something in him that correctly be tight end.
I was lucky that I coached his dad, so I knew the family and kind of watched him grow up. And then you meet him, and his dad wasn't very big. He was a punter for us. And here's a guy at 6'8", 247. He's right at a 4-point student. He's done everything right in his life. He's really good in basketball. He's really good in baseball. And he's really good in football. So I knew I wanted him, and I didn't even care what he did. He was going to do something good for us. He could probably play defensive end. He can be a tight end, and hopefully he can be a quarterback. So we'll get to look at all that. But he also loves this place. He didn't care. He said, I'd love to play quarterback, but if you think I can do something else, I want to come to North Carolina. And that's what you want. You want guys that love your place. If you have to talk somebody into coming, it's probably not going to work out. And the transfer portal's made it even worse. If you're talking them into coming, then you have to talk them into staying. So we want guys that want to be here. And Jefferson Boaz will get his degree from the University of North Carolina.
What do you feel you accomplished most this signing with this recruiting class?
I think what we've done is we've brought in players that have a chance to help us next year. And it'll give us a lot more depth, which is what we needed now. It will challenge the players that are on the team. Some of these guys will have a chance to start, much less play a lot. And it just gives us a lot more strength of team with our depth. I'll show this video to the team in the morning, so they'll know what's coming, and they're going to have to compete with these guys. We've always told our players to try to out-recruit yourself. Let's get somebody here that's going to challenge you so you get better. And the more depth you get, the more guys you get that challenge each other, the more competitive your team becomes, and the fewer injuries you have because you got more people playing, and you've got a lot fewer people tired on the field at the end of the game.
Which players do you can help you next year?
That'd be unfair, because the way they play in high school is totally different than the way they'll play in college. So there's no question that the guys that come in early have a better chance to be ready to play, simply because they've learned to go to college. They will go through an off-season program. They'll go through spring practice, and then the other guys come in June. So the ones that are here early will be ahead of the ones that come in June. But you never know, Ross. We've looked at some. You look at a guy like Colt McCoy. We used to say he's a two-star. Nobody thought he played. He won more games than anybody in college football at that time. Vince Young was a big, tall guy that came in, but nobody thought he could be a quarterback. Everybody said he'd be a safety or a wide receiver, and here he is, running up to both of them running up to the Heisman. Kenny Vaccaro for us was a two-star, and he ends up he's still playing. He played for the Saints. So it sounds like coach speak, but you really don't know. You don't know who's going to handle moving away from home. You don't know who's going to handle all the time management issues that they have that are different now than they were when they were in high school, of handling class and handling the off-season stuff, off the field stuff, and you don't know who's going to be tough. So you really, that's why you love to see them, and when you see them, it doesn't take you long to tell, ooh, he's really good. We thought he was good, but he is really good.
Are there a couple that really stand out athletically that just jump off in terms of, like, people call them a freak?
I haven't thought about it, because I think about the whole bunch, and then you start thinking about the 12 that are coming in. We're already talking to 21s today about signing this time next year, so you get kind of all over the place on signing day with multitasking. If you look at it, and you're not talking about linemen, the two tight ends are athletic for tight ends, and we feel good about that. Criswell's really athletic as a quarterback. Josh Downs is very fast. He's been taught well, and he's athletic. DJ Jones and Elijah Green, they look like they're really fast and can catch in space. Caden Chalmers is a tremendous cover corner. Those two safeties, I mean, you guys, now if you just start looking at it, I think they're all guys we'd take again, really. And there's not one guy on here that I wouldn't take again, and that's usually pretty good, because there's usually some you say, not sure about him, and not sure about him, but we're sure about these.
It seems like the theme here, a lot of guys who just play different positions. Was that the kind of people athletes you were targeting with this class?
Yes, there's a gentleman named Dick Tomey who was a tremendous coach that we lost, I think last May or June, and he was a tremendous friend of mine, and he coached with us at Texas. And he always said in recruiting, he was the head coach at Arizona, he was the head coach at Hawaii, head coach at San Jose State, and he said something that made a lot of sense to me. If a guy can play a lot of different places, he's going to be successful, because if you take him at one place and he can't play that place, then he's through. But if you take a guy like Cedric Gray who can play 6, 7 places, we're going to find a place for him to play. And that makes sense to me. So I always tell the kids, they said, where am I going to play, Coach? I said, I don't know. You got a lot of places you can play. And that makes it so much better than if you're locked into one place.
Coach, you've always had success recruiting, magic touch. I mean, without giving your secret away, is there a certain philosophy to it?
I think the most important thing is you have a good product. And when we were here before, it's a great place to go to school. And we need to be the cool place to be. So we've added facilities, we filled the stands, we won games, we showed promise, we had a chance to win every game. So those are things that you have to have. If you don't have a product, you're not going to recruit well. So that's the most important thing. I think the second thing is that we were able to hire a staff that fits this footprint in recruiting. It fits the state, and just without going through all of them, Lonnie Galloway's recruited 15 years in this state. Stacy Searles recruited in this state 7 years up at Appalachian State, and he was at Georgia and recruited the state a long time too. Jay Bateman, 15 years in the Charlotte area. So you start going through, Tommy Thigpen and Robert Gillespie were already here. Dre Blythe's been in Virginia in this state his whole life. So I could go through every one of them. Tim Brewster was here 10 years with me before. So we hired a group that could walk out here and not have to have a GPS to find Charlotte, or go into the east or go to the west. They know the state, and they have great name recognition with the coaches in this state. And one thing that Coach Fedora wasn't able to have was continuity of staff, because he did so well. A lot of the guys left. We've got to keep our guys here that are doing really, really well, and I think continuity will be really key. And then the other thing is we've got stability, because they know I'm going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. And the coaches love this place, so they're not going anywhere. So that's something that most coaches can't sell, is stability. And then lastly is that we're very direct and honest with them. And we'll tell them, here's who we are, here's what we're going to do. If you like this, come. If you don't, go somewhere else, because we're not changing. And I think that fits better. And our coaches said, how do you keep guys from going in the portal? And I said, sign guys that want to be here. And then they won't be running the first time somebody yells at them, or they don't get to play. And I think that's very, very important, that we're very direct and tell them exactly what it's going to be like. Not every place is perfect. In fact, none of these places are perfect. And college football is very hard. It's very difficult. One thing I think we all do as recruiters is we tell them how great it is, and you're going to start, and it's perfect, and it's not. It's not a perfect world. So we're trying to tell them the truth.
You can have 3 sets. You have 3 sets.
Go ahead.
Yes.
You have 3 sets of teammates on this sign class. How unique is that to bring in 6 guys who play with you?
Yeah, it's very unique, and it means they like each other. And when they come and have fun and love a place, that they sell the other one on coming with them. And I think that's key. And it's funny, sometimes we had teammates once here, and I won't even say who they were. They were dying to room together, and they loved each other. They got here and they loved each other but hated each other's roommates. So we had to move them apart after about 10 days. So it'll be interesting to see if those stay together after they get here.
You haven't had any staff turnover yet. Obviously, Coach Carousel's still going on. What's the key to keeping your staff in place, given so many options across the country?
Number one, they need to want to be here, and that was part of the reason I hired them. They're guys that want to live in this area. Secondly, they need to see hope in recruiting and on the field, and we've been able to show that in both. They need to see a commitment. We've been able to do that with the facilities, and we have future facilities in place that we will be moving forward with. The fan base needs to be committed, and they were. And then you got to pay them. And I think that's the other thing, because these guys are going to be popular, and people are going to be coming after them, and we've got to make a commitment to keep them here.
Are there any positions that you intend to look at moving forward for the February signing day? I know last year you went out and found Don Chapman. Or any positions you feel like you need to sign some more guys at?
We're going to look hard because we found probably 6-7 guys in that second window last year that we really didn't know a lot about before. And we'll probably look at a couple of transfers, grad transfers or something too, because we weren't able to do that last year. So we'll look at both of those moving forward. You'd always like to have as many pass rushers as you can get. You'd like to always have a great center if you could do that, but we'll keep looking at any of the positions. It just has to be a great player. We'll have fewer numbers of scholarships next year. So you don't want to take an average player this year that costs you a great player next year, because next year's class is tremendous in this state. So we're so excited about the 21s. We're not going to take an average guy. He would have to be a really special player before we would take him between now and February. If it's a grad transfer, it doesn't cost you one next year because he plays 1 year and he's gone. But if you get a transfer or sign another high school player, it'll cost you one for next year.
How important was it to sign a quarterback in this class, and what's your philosophy with quarterback recruiting in terms of number per cycle moving forward?
I felt like that we got behind a quarterback at Texas. We got one hurt, we had one transfer, and all of a sudden we were short. And you can't play and win in this sport without a great quarterback. He touches the ball every time. He's got to be really, really good. You're having them leave so quickly now. We had one leave last year already in Cade Fortin, and I'm really excited for him. And I guess I can't say where he's gone unless he signed today, but I don't know if he did or not, but congratulations to him when he goes wherever he's going. But we've got to keep at least 3 quarterbacks that can play on our campus. And it depends on, if you think you're going to lose one, you sign another one every year, because you can't have enough good quarterbacks. And then we're going to try to see if we can play 2. I've always wanted to do that. We tried last year and Jace got hurt. But I always felt like that we lose a guy named Colt McCoy in the national championship game after the 5th play, and our backup wasn't as ready as he should have been, and I put that on me. So you need to keep 2 if you're going to have a chance to win all the games.
And with Criswell, is he more of a, I mean, can he run?
Yes.
Maybe more so than Sam? Or
I think Sam can run a lot more than we saw this year because we kept him from running. But Sam last year in high school ran a lot. In the All-Star game, he ran for a touchdown, I think. The All-American game, I think we'll see Sam running a lot more and better next year.
How big was it? Well, in the past, maybe a guy like Desmond Evans lead state, goes to some other program. How big was it for your message of building the best around state to come to commit and stay here in North Carolina?
I thought it was huge because Sam stayed last year. Emory Simmons flipping and coming back and staying. When the top players, Tristan Miller flipped and came here, when the top players flip or stay here, it sends a message to all the young 21s that are out there that it's okay to come here now. We're the best players in the state this year. We're coming, so you can come with us. And actually, they're the ones that recruit them, and that's when you start getting a lot better.
How big are you on multiple sport guys? I know, like you said, Jefferson plays 3 sports. Dad was a basketball player. Jay is a track guy. How big are you on multiple sport guys?
I love multiple sport guys as long as they can keep their grades up, because when they do, that means they're competitors. They don't want to take any time off. So I love that. I think it's always cool.
What were the early priorities with this class, and did any kind of change as you got an idea of what you had here?
We felt like that we had to improve in both lines of scrimmage. We don't have any junior offensive linemen. So after all these guys are back, except Charlie Heck and Nick Polino, but after that, next year, nobody leaves. So we've got 2 years of these guys, but we need to start getting more competition and more depth in that area, so that was key. And the same thing in the defensive line. You lose Aaron Crawford, you lose Strobridge. Next year you lose Fox and Hopper. So you're losing a lot of the guys that have played the last few years in the defensive line, so we've got to upgrade in that area.
Mack, you've talked a ton about building depth here. How far away do you think you are now with having the amount of depth that you really want with this program?
I think probably another recruiting class is what it is, because we will have to play these freshmen next year some. And I didn't think that we probably played enough depth this year at times during the season. It was my fault because the games were so close and we wanted to win so badly that we didn't trust some guys to put them in. And then when we put them in at the end of the year, they actually did better and we did better. So I thought it was on me more than the assistant coaches, because I'd say, get them ready, and then they wanted to put them in. I'd say, hey, man, it's tight. It is tight, and it was going to be tight, but we just needed to play them more. We're going to have to do the same next year. We've got a really tough schedule to open up with Central Florida, and then you've got Auburn. Then you've got JMU, one of the top FCS programs in the country, and Virginia Tech. But we're going to have to play the young ones. We're just going to have to turn them loose. So it'll be probably a couple more years before we can just say, ooh, we look good.
A few offensive line questions. How do you recruit? You said you want to have more nasty players, more kind of mean streak. How do you recruit that? Is it just based on tape or kind of personality you can sense?
It is. The older coaches always told me you want a brain surgeon that's so nice during the week that you would let your daughter date, that would be a deacon in the church that'll kill people on Saturday for 3.5 hours. And it sounds a little facetious, but that's really what you want. You want really smart, nice young people that as soon as they put that helmet on, they become very aggressive. And then when they walk off the field, they turn it back off. And so you look at those guys. A lot of these guys that we saw today can run. They're athletic. They're downfield. And they're knocking people down. There are a lot of pancake blocks, and then you check their personalities, and you just love that talk. Offensive linemen are different than any other position on the team. They're all very close together. They're usually very quiet. They're not as animated as defensive players, but you got to have that toughness in the offensive line. If you can't run the ball and you can't protect your quarterback, you're not going to win games.
And then Adorno, you said you play all 5 positions. So you don't have a center technically signed to see a guy.
Yeah, we'll see if he can snap. That's it's weird, but like we tried Awesome Richards there, and he struggled with snapping. He's a really good basketball player, so I thought, oh, Awesome can snap. He's all over the place, and he'll be a really good player, but he wasn't a snapper. So we'll have to wait and see. When all of these guys hit here, we continue to look at centers, so you always see if they can snap.
It seems like Caden's the tackle and Malik's the guard. Those kind of only 2 defined.
Yes.
Players. Okay.
Yeah, and Trey could play any of the 5 as well. He'll just be a little bit behind because of his shoulder.
We able to see any of the state championships in state this weekend?
No, they won't let us. If I see them, I don't get to go by the school. And I want to go by each school that has a prospect. And if I see the game here or go somewhere else, that's my one visit to the school. And I'd rather watch it on TV and then go to the school.
Going off what you said just about your quarterback recruiting philosophy, what were your conversations with Criswell, especially as Sam had the success that he had over the season? And I guess just in your mind, what ultimately appealed to him to leave Arkansas and come in?
Yeah. The conversations were that this offense is a dream for a quarterback. So if you're a good player, that this is a dream. And just look at what Sam was able to do as a freshman. And really and truly, Malik didn't ask a lot about Sam. He was proud of him and thought he looked really good, but he wants to play. And it's also very interesting that great prospects never ask about who's there, even at that position. I asked Coach Switzer one time when I coached at Oklahoma, how'd you get all these great backs? And he said, I never had a back that was a great player for us ask about who was there. They weren't worried about competition because they knew they were good enough to play. And he said, and I was never beaten by one of those guys that kept asking me about, I had too many backs, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play or not. So you want the guys that aren't scared. And I think the fact that Phil Longo had a relationship with Kobe for the last 2.5 years was huge. I don't know that we could have gotten him out of Arkansas if Phil hadn't known him and had the relationship with him for that long.
Coach, obviously this is a good defensive class. In the secondary next year, you've got 5 or 6 kids who are either transfers or coming back from injury. You've got a couple of stud linebackers, Tamon Fox. What do you look, just overall, the prospects for defense for next year?
Lee, the biggest thing that I think we've got to do to improve fast is get depth. And I think that's such a key in college football today. And we've got, when we get so we can play two teams and you can't tell a lot of difference in who's out there, then we will have been good. I think when I left here, Dre has the numbers, but like 18 maybe of the 22 that played defense were drafted. So it was about everybody too deep on our defense. And that's what we've got to get to.
You flipped two commitments from NC State, and you have a player whose dad played for NC State. What goes into flipping a recruit?
It was interesting. John Adorno called us and said, "Would you talk to me again?" And I don't like. And Stephen Gosnell, we didn't see early. NC State had been here, so we really didn't see him early enough. Then we saw him and talked to him. And Josh Downs is kin to Dre Bly. So I think, to be fair, that was a huge part of him being interested. Dre married Josh's mother's sister, so he's the uncle as such. In fact, Josh calls him Uncle Dre, and they trash toss all the time because of the rude boys and the receivers. So that'll be interesting to watch this spring as they go through it. But I think that with early signing date, Ross, and people are making decisions so early. With a new staff coming in, there were question marks about whether we'd fill the stands. There were question marks about whether we'd win. And some of the young guys that committed to other places or weren't very interested in us early came back after they saw we were going to win and we had new facilities and all the things we told them were coming true. And we even had some other guys that, not NC State guys, but other guys that wanted to flip, and we didn't have room for them in the end. So we will be at a different place with the 21s than we were the 20s because we had so many unanswered questions. And I think that's why some people said, "Ooh, it's pretty good over there." And they saw us play Clemson to one point. They saw all the close games we ran, and then they were starting to say, I'd like to be part of that. And we had a lot more of that than we anticipated. In fact, we had some guys ask our coaches in the spring, said, "I may wait and see how you all do." And my answer to the coaches was, "You tell him I may wait and see how he does then." That's fair. What else?
How's this whole day unfold for you? What time do you get started, and how do
Oh,
you
gosh.
go about it?
Yeah, it's a long day across the country for coaches and kids. You can sign at 7 o'clock wherever you are. So we had all of our scholarships in that we've gotten by 9:15. So it was really cool. And it's such an exciting day for these guys. It's a dream. They've waited their whole life. So I was up at 5. I was in the building at 6. All of our coaches here were by 6:15, 6:30. And then you sit there and you wait to get the phone call. And we even had some guys at the Shrine Bowl, and their signing had to be unique because they weren't at their high school and their parents might not have been down there, so they had to go through different avenues to get signed. And Billy High and the staff did a tremendous job of organizing everything. So it's been a fun and smooth, easy day for us.
In terms of your more stressful, was this having that all done by 9:30 pretty easy for you?
It is, and I used to be a lot more stressed, and then at Texas we didn't lose many. The ones that we wanted would come. I told the coaches that if you're talking to the right people and you're recruiting the right young people here, then we're not going to have a lot of people flip. We need to be able to trust the people that if they tell us they're coming, then we should be trusting them. And that's just part of it. If not, we probably shouldn't have them here. And that's just the way it is. And the other thing I've thought now with the transfer portal, if one acts like he doesn't want to come, why do you think he's going to stay? So you really want the guys that want to be here. So I embrace them. I love it. Billy on the recruiting weekend said he'd never seen this many parents on time and kids on time. And I think Billy's worried about losing his job because they were so organized they didn't need him. So he's hoping a few sleep in or something. But it's a fun group. And now we've been recruiting these guys for a year, so they all get on text chains together. So if you tell one of them something, you're telling 27 of them because they all talk every minute of every day together, and they all come to camp together, and they all come to the barbecue together, and they come to every game together. So these guys have bonded so much that pretty much the guys that are the core of your recruiting class aren't going to change.
Signed 2 tight ends, and then Boaz could be a tight end. I think your leading tight end caught 9 passes this year. How do you want to incorporate the tight end more into the offense, especially with these new guys coming in?
Yeah, I think when we get as a staff, we spend more time together, we're going to throw it to the tight ends a lot more. And we dropped some balls, and we had some bad routes, but I do think that the tight end will be a vital part of this. These tight ends can run well enough too that you can keep them in there to block, and you can flex them out to pass. And I think that'll be a key part of this. When we can have the same personnel, Ross, and use a lot of different formations, that really makes it tough on the defense because they can't substitute because you're not substituting. Anything else?
Yeah, one other question. I think Monday you said so long, your recruiting footprints from like DC, Maryland to Jacksonville, and UNC traditionally has gone down to Miami some as well. Is there, you're not obviously not limiting yourself, but is there a reason you don't go farther down to Florida, or what's kind of the whole recruiting geographically speaking?
If you study Jacksonville to DC, it's one of the most fertile recruiting places in the country. We went down to Naples this year. We saw some guys in Florida, so we will go to Miami, but we got to have a reason. We've got to find the guy who has a tie, the guy who wants to come here academically. Because you think for a guy to go from Miami, he's got to drive by Miami, Florida State, Florida, Georgia, Clemson to get up here. So if he's a great player, we've got to have a reason that he's going to come before we go that far. And we had it, Caden Baker loved this place. So we were recruiting him early. So I think that's obvious, the reason that we got him. Kobe, the quarterback, Criswell was we wouldn't have gone to Arkansas probably to get a quarterback, but with his ties, we did that. So I think the more our staff gets together and gets away from the other places that they had coached, will probably be more in that footprint. And they're going to have to know a coach from Miami or know a coach from New Jersey that has a player, and then we would go see that player. But we have to have some reason to think he would want to come.